Hello and good afternoon from an unseasonably sunny Portsmouth on England's south coast. You join me today at Portsmouth Harbour, just across from the HMS Warrior, which is a steam-powered frigate. She was launched in December 1860 and served with the Royal Navy. Having been decommissioned in 1883, she was restored in the 1980s and nowadays serves as a museum ship. Unfortunately, no time for me to have a look around today, as I've got a train to catch. Today, we'll be heading to London Waterloo with South Western Railway, and we'll be having a look at what to expect from their first class offering on this route. But first, let's see what Portsmouth Harbour Station has to offer. The entrance to the station brings you into this small booking hall. Here you'll find a couple of ticket machines, as well as a staffed, or rather not staffed on the day I filmed this, ticket counter. The station has plenty of space to accommodate bicycles. However, if you'd rather brave the roads of London, you can, with the exception of certain peak time restrictions, take your bike on the train free of charge. In terms of food and drink, there's a small cafe and a couple of vending machines. South Western Railway permanently canned all on-board catering at the start of the pandemic, so bear that in mind before beginning your journey. As you may have been able to tell from the exterior shots, Portsmouth Harbour Station is actually built on a pier. One benefit of this is, at the end of the station, you'll find direct interchange access to fast cat ferry services to ride on the Isle of Wight. It's even possible to get a combined rail and sail ticket if you're looking to make use of this service. Anyway, time to go and catch our ride to the capital. The service we'll be taking today is the 1559 to London Waterloo. Our just over 2 hour long journey today will be aboard a pair of Class 450 electric multiple units, with this one sporting South Western Railway's rather nice and smart dark blue livery. Now, you might be thinking, but Dylan, if this is an EMU, where are the overhead wires? Well, power to these trains is provided through an electric third rail, with this method of electrification being very common in the south of England. The Class 450s are a variant of Siemens' rather popular Desiro family of trains, and have a top speed of 100 miles an hour or 161 kilometres an hour.
Southsea, Fratton, Fareham, Eastleigh, Woking and London Waterloo. This train has 8 carriages.
A small first class section can be found at either end of each 4-coach unit. Disappointingly, seating is in a 2+2 configuration, with all seats being part of a bay of 4. You can really tell that these trains are meant for shorter distance journeys, as legroom is really rather poor, at least by first class standards. However, at least there is a plug socket provided for each and every seat. I found the tables to be nice and big, which is good, and they even have wireless phone chargers built into them, which is rather quirky. Now, it was a bit temperamental to get them to work. You seem to have to put your phone down neither too hard nor too soft to get them to activate. But once on, they worked about as well as any other wireless charger out there. As for the seats, well, I didn't think they were really that great. While the leather style material does look nice, I thought the seats were just too hard and really not that comfortable. They do, however, offer a degree of recline, but it's a bit of a faff should you want to make use of it, as you have to sort of lift the base of the seat and recline it in stages. And lastly, you'll also find a curtain and a reading light. Now be sure to let me know what you think of these seats in the comments below. While I appreciate that these were designed for short distance journeys, Portsmouth to London really isn't, and these seats really aren't up to scratch for that in my opinion. Anyway, as we'll soon be departing, I'll stop whinging for the time being and show you our route for today. We'll make a sort of C-shaped journey today, which will take us from Portsmouth and via the likes of Winchester, Basingstoke and Woking, before arriving into London Waterloo. Scheduled travel time today is 2 hours and 13 minutes and our top speed will be 100 miles an hour. And we depart Portsmouth Harbour on time. I should probably mention that tall sail-shaped building is the Spinnaker Tower, which is 170 metres or 558 feet tall and is home to an observation deck. A few minutes after setting off, we arrive at our first calling point, Portsmouth and Southsea. This is Portsmouth's main station, being located in the city centre, and is also where you change to catch hovercraft services to the Isle of Wight, which you can find my review of in the top right corner of the screen now. Next up is Fratton, with Fratton Train Care Depot being just adjacent to the station. This is also the closest station to nearby Fratton Park Football Stadium.
This is Hampshire, Malecki.
After some rather nice views of the nearby inlets and lakes, we arrive at Fareham, which is at the northern end of Portsmouth Harbour. As we approach Eastleigh, be sure to keep an eye out of the left of the train for Eastleigh Works, as it's a bit of a blast from the past. There's all sorts here, ranging from old HST power cars to Mark II coaches in retro Virgin livery, and there was even an ex-Northern Pacer tucked away at the back. From Eastleigh, we join the South Western Main Line, which will take us right through to London. Winchester is next, and while I could reuse the fact I mentioned in my Pool to London video about how it used to be England's capital prior to the Norman conquest of 1066, I'll instead tell you about how Winchester College is the oldest public school, which confusingly here in England at least means private school, to still use its original buildings, some of which date back to the late 1300s. Right, time for the old wonder. The overwhelming majority of seats on the Class 450s are standard or second class. Unfortunately, considering the length of the journey, seating here is laid out in a high density 2+3 configuration. Now, it would seem that it's more or less a 50-50 as to whether you'll get one of these Class 450 commuter trains, or a Class 444, which is the version of this train geared towards longer distance journeys. Spaces for wheelchair users can be found towards the middle of each unit, right next to the accessible toilet. In terms of luggage provisions, there are overhead racks for anything up to the size of an airline carry-on, with space between the backs of seats for larger items. And those bicycle spaces I mentioned earlier can be found next to the smaller toilet. One cool feature of these trains is that it's possible to move between units through where the cabs are. Of the 4 toilets on today's train, I was really disappointed to find out that 3 were out of order, and, naturally, the one that was serviceable was located 7 carriages from where I was sitting. Well, at least everything in this one seemed to be working, but it was rather filthy. Lastly, this train is allegedly Wi-Fi enabled, although I couldn't get my phone to connect.
As you're exempt, please wear a face covering on our trains and at our stations. Please remember to socially distance where possible.
Eventually, we arrive in Woking, which is located at the very outer fringes of London's sprawling suburbs. Honestly, I was left feeling pretty disappointed by this trip. While I think that SWR's Class 450s would be great for shorter distance journeys of up to an hour or so, in my opinion, they're not really well suited for longer journeys between London and the south coast, and for 3 of the 4 toilets to be out of order, well, I think that's out of order. To be honest, the only really good things about this journey were the scenery, the weather, and the price, as I paid just £9.95 for my advanced first class single, including railcard discount of a third. I seem to remember this only being about £2 extra than standard too, and I guess this does make everything perhaps seem a little more appealing. But overall, not a great experience. But what did you make of it all? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. On the way into London, we pass through Clapham Junction, which, with between 100 and 180 trains per hour either stopping at or passing through the station, is the busiest railway station in terms of number of trains in the UK.
This train is now approaching its final stop. This is London Waterloo. Change here for London Underground services if you...
We eventually end up pulling into London Waterloo a few minutes early at just before 6:10. With that, I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to help us out by giving it a like. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications as I publish new trip reports every Monday and Friday. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on Friday.